Sports reflect the world we live in, exposing corporate greed, favoritism, double standards that protect the privileged, and aggressive propaganda that seeks to demonize those who do not bow to power. Nowhere was this more evident than at the 2025 Australian Open. Once again, Novak Djokovic, the greatest champion of all time, was sabotaged with a fixed draw, smeared by the press and booed by the xenophobic and brainwashed Australian hooligans. By contrast, Jannik Sinner, the new hand-picked, steroid-powered, Nike-sponsored establishment project, was handed every possible advantage and benefit of the doubt. Let's start with the draw, which was the most glaring example of manipulation since the 2021 US Open. Djokovic faced the toughest possible path, needing to defeat all of the top 3 seeds: Carlos Alcaraz, Alexander Zverev, and Jannik Sinner, to claim the title. This was always going to be an absurdly difficult task, but the mafia in charge did not stop there. Leaving nothing to chance, they ensured that Novak faced the most difficult adversary they could find in the early rounds as well. All his opponents in the first 4 rounds were rising stars on winning streaks. In the first round, Djokovic faced Nishesh Basavaredi, a qualifier who prior to Australian Open reached the semifinals of Auckland Open, where he lost to the eventual champion, Monfils. In the second round, Novak's opponent was Jaime Faria, who in the previous season reached 3 challenger finals, won 2 titles and climbed to number 105 in the world. In Australian Open, before facing Novak, Faria dropped just 1 set in 4 matches. As Novak said, Faria was playing lights-out tennis. In the next 2 matches, Novak faced 2 Czech rising stars, Tomáš Machač and Jiří Lehečka, who are 25th and 23rd respectively in the ATP rankings. And by the way, Riley Opelka, who just weeks before Australian Open beat Djokovic in Brisbane, was also in Novak's quarter of the draw. Of course he was. The draw was so blatantly fixed that many pundits were smugly predicting Djokovic wouldn't even reach the quarterfinal. But as it had been throughout his career, stumbling blocks placed in Novak's path only helped to grow his legend. He beat both Czech players in straight sets before producing a stunning masterclass against Alcaraz in what turned out to be the match of the tournament. This was by far Novak's best performance in majors since 2023. And how did the media and Australian fans reward this classic performance from the 37-year-old greatest of all time? They scrutinized his injury, falsely accused him of gamesmanship, and booed him off the court. Why wouldn't they? He is only the greatest champion in the history of their tournament, who donated to their bushfire relief fund, played 3 charity events in their country, and never said a bad word against them, even after they denied him natural justice and deported him like a criminal. No good deed goes unpunished. Did anybody apologize when Novak's injury once again turned out to be real? When he was forced to retire from a slam semifinal? When he published his MRI scan? Of course not. The prostitutes never retract, never apologize, because their goal isn't truth, but brainwashing the public. And before Djokovic haters accuse me of exaggerating, having a victim mentality, or being a crazy conspiracy theorist, let's consider how the same media and the public treated the establishment's drug-fueled champion Jannik Sinner. Sinner's draw was such a cakewalk that it felt like a nostalgic tribute to Nadal's last 2 US Open titles. The only top 10 player that Sinner faced before the final was Alex de Minaur, who managed to win just 6 games. De Minaur's most intense effort came after the match, when he was arguing on Twitter with fans who mocked his performance. The only adversity that Sinner faced was against Rune in the 4th round, a match in which Sinner left the court for a medical timeout that lasted 12 minutes. Leaving his opponent to cook in the scorching heat. But the press didn't accuse Sinner of gamesmanship. They didn't question his supposed illness. Just like they never questioned why last year he claimed to have a hip injury that would keep him out for a long time, but it never did. Just like they didn't question his withdrawal from the Olympics because he supposedly had tonsillitis, conveniently skipping the only tournament where World Anti-Doping Agency and not the ATP oversees doping control. Just like they never questioned why a player with 2 failed doping tests is allowed to continue playing when others in his situation were sidelined for months and even years. Instead of holding Sinner accountable, the prostitutes heaped praise on him, glorifying his asterisk-riddled victories. If the Australian crowd was so eager to boo someone, you would think that a guy who was caught using steroids, covered it up for 5 months, and escaped punishment would be a prime candidate. Just imagine if Djokovic was in his place. They would boo him after every point, and the media would talk of nothing else. None of this is new. It's the same old story of double standards, corruption, and tennis mafia force-feeding us another manufactured champion. Only this time, the corruption is more blatant, the propaganda more shameless, and the establishment champion even less charismatic than before. Something that I didn't think was possible. It's the same movie we've been watching for the past 20 years, only the actors have changed. All but one, the best one, the greatest one. And unless a new hero emerges to carry his torch, tennis will be in a dark place when he's gone. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon.